Hey, my friends. This is Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilience with Rebecca, a place where we have real conversations about real life with real people. We talk about getting stuck in the messy middle sometimes, but we always talk about getting back up. Well, recently, my husband and I had the privilege of being in California when the weather was about 104 degrees. Now, it was ridiculously hot. That is not normal weather for where we live. And so it was just really, really hot and very, very uncomfortable to say the least. And right in the middle of this week long, it lasted about a week or so, week long heat wave, my husband's car started acting up and he started having issues with it not wanting to start and not wanting to go or whatever it was doing. I'm not a car person, so I'm not sure exactly what the issue was, but he had all these problems and it was frustrating. And we were talking about, possibly getting another car and that type of thing. We had just started that conversation, and right smack dab in the middle of these conversations, he's driving home from work one day and his car decides that it does not want to bring him home to me. And it's not funny because the day was the day when the temperatures hit well above 104 degrees. So it was horribly hot and very uncomfortable. And he was stranded on the side of the road. And he ended up thankfully getting it to start and having to bring it back home, and getting to bring it back home. But the thing was that on that trip home in this 104-degree weather, he had to roll the windows down and turn the heater on to go against what it was doing. I'm not, like I said earlier, not a mechanic, not a car person, don't have any idea why he did what he did, but apparently it had something to do with what needed to be done in order to get the car home. And so this poor man drove home in 104 heat with the heater on and the windows rolled down. Needless to say, it was one of the most miserable drives home that he had ever had. And I didn't say before, and I will say now, his drive home from work is about 45 minutes of a commute. So it wasn't just a quick hop in the car and we'll be home in 5 minutes drive. It was probably double that by the time he had gotten the car to get going and got it home to us. And it was just extremely inconvenient. It was extremely unexpected. It was frustrating. It was just completely out of the normal because when you jump in your car and turn it on, you expect it to start and go, and it did not. It just decided it was done being our family car or his work car. And it just kind of showed me as this was happening that, as he was telling me the story later on, that sometimes our plans definitely don't don't turn out the way that we want. I mean, definitely didn't turn out for him that day. He had no intention when that day started of having to drive home in this ridiculously hot weather with the heater on. And I mean, if he'd known that, I bet you he would have probably just taken the day off and stayed home from work that day and figured out what was going on in the car, started our process of looking for a new one, whatever the case may be. But that's like life, and life sometimes throws 104-degree heat at us. Sometimes it breaks, the car breaks down. Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate. Sometimes the 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 things don't turn out the way we're hoping they will, and we realize that our plans are falling apart. And in this case with the car, I think in life it's the same thing. We had to focus on, okay, well, here I am stranded on the side of the road. Here I am, this job loss, this divorce, this issue that's come up at home or at work or whatever else has sidelined me. And I'm sitting here on the side of the road figuring out, what in the world do I do now? And it's time to focus on the next step. Well, the next step is, in life, it's popping the hood and figuring out what you can do to maybe cool it down, maybe make it start. What's that next step? That's our lesson. Like, what is the next step that I can take? Okay, I can't go back and change that this has happened, but what's the next step I can take to move forward? And then realize that the ordinary the ordinary courage that it takes to get back up. Like sometimes we think, okay, well, the car's broke down on the side of the road. I'm just going to give up. I'm going to throw my hands up and and just give up. And of course, that's silly. I mean, my husband wasn't going to sit right beside the car on the side of the road and pitch a tent there and start cooking meals on the side of the road and live there the rest of his life. And he's eventually going to figure out a solution to get the car home or get it towed or whatever the case may be. And we sometimes find ourselves in these situations where we're completely burnout. We're completely overwhelmed. We're completely out of our depth and we don't know what to do. And the courage it takes to get back up on our feet and step forward, sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for that. When we get back up, it takes extraordinarily ordinary courage to get up and get us back through these bad situations. And so I want to encourage you, if you find yourself in a situation where you feel like that's where you are right now, where you're sitting on the side of the road, or you're sitting on the sidelines of your life, or you're sitting on the end of a bad decision or a bad layoff, or there's so many there's so many situations. I can't even think of all of them at this point. But if you find yourself in that situation where you're sitting there with your life kind of around you, with the heat coming at you, with everything going wrong, I want to encourage you to take that next step, to stay calm, to focus on your next step, and then take it. As hard as that may be, I encourage you to do that. So I have a question for you. What in your life has made you feel stranded lately? What in your life has caused you to feel like you're sitting beside the side of that road? What is it that you can grab a hold of and realize that this is just a setback? Because we're talking about resilience on this thing. Resilience isn't about avoiding the breakdowns. Resilience is refusing to stay stuck there. Now, if my husband would have refused to stay stuck, or would have, he did refuse to stay stuck. If he would have refused to get back up, I mentioned it earlier. What he's going to do? Pitch a tent on the side of the road and live there the rest of his life? No, it was a choice to say, "Hey, this happened to me. It really sucked in that moment. It was a horribly hot, most inconvenient, uncomfortable day for him, but he got back up and he got back under the hood and he did what he had to do. He turned the heat on, he rolled the windows down, he babied the car, he got it home. And needless to say, we don't have that car anymore because it was one too many times that it broke down on the side of the road. But that's when the new decisions came in. That's when it was time to do something new. It was time to do something different. And it took us breaking down on a 104-degree day, or I guess I should say it took him breaking down because thankfully I was at home in the air conditioning, not bragging, just thankfully that's where I was when this happened. But it took him breaking down on the side of the road one last time to realize it was time to make the changes necessary. And that's sometimes what it takes. Is sometimes it takes us breaking down one last time to make those changes necessary to move forward in life. So I want to encourage you today, get up, get moving, focus on what that next step is. You've got this. I want to tell you thank you for hanging out today on Resilience with Rebecca with me. If this spoke to you in any way, I would appreciate you sharing it on any platform you feel that it would be something someone else needs to hear. Remember, you're much more stronger than you think, and we will see you next time.